So we're celebrating, or at least acknowledging that it's been 10 years since the bubble burst. That was May of 2000. And on one hand, it seems like it was a really long time ago. On the other hand, it seems like it was yesterday. And so it's interesting to see not just what's happened since then, but what was life like at the time? What were we thinking about? What was this whole internet thing going to become? And ask ourselves, what are the biggest surprises that have happened since then? What technologies, what companies, what features and behaviors have emerged that we didn't even think about back then? So I've given that a lot of thought, and I look at a lot of the candidates, things like social networks. Well, those have become a really big, indispensable part of our lives, but we kind of knew that. Social networks aren't new by any means. They just became enabled by technology. Look at things like developing communities around brands. We see a lot of that today, but we were seeing a lot of it, at least a lot of people talking about it back before the bubble burst. We look at search and the impact that search has on actual commercial practices. Again, people were thinking about that quite a bit. They didn't get it as right as we know it today, but they knew that it would happen. So a lot of different activities, again, that have become very big were well established. But the one thing that has become much bigger than anyone would have ever dreamed at the time and would truly become an indispensable part of our lives would be user-generated content, and in particular, user-generated video. So I think about a YouTube and about what it has become, and not just as kind of a novelty, something like a Twitter or a Foursquare, where it's fun to talk about, but if they took it away from me, life would be just the same. But I look at something like a YouTube and the many different roles that it plays in our lives, in our economy, and just in the practice of business. I look at video loggers, people who can use video in very effective ways to express their creativity or their opinions. I look at different kinds of mashups that people create, whether it's creating clever kinds of movie trailers or music videos and so on. I look at parodies that people have created. I look at the way that video journalists capture moments that we just wouldn't have seen otherwise. I think about when the plane landed on the Hudson River, about all the different videos of that, or other events with less pleasant outcomes. I think the role that kind of user-generated or amateur video has is really huge. And I think, having said all that, we ain't seen nothing yet. I think that it's going to continue to grow. It's going to continue to become a very deep part of our lives. I think people are going to continue to develop technology, hardware and software, to help make those kinds of videos easier to create, easier to share, easier to consume. And so I think that to me, is the biggest thing that's happened, the biggest surprise over the 10 years since the bubble burst. So there are huge implications of this explosive growth of user-generated video for marketers. It shows up in many different angles. One is just the whole idea of being of transparent and authentic. Because if companies are out there saying the wrong things or saying one thing and doing another, people are going to be on it in a second. And while there's many different forums for people to hold companies accountable for their actions and their statements, there is no better forum than YouTube. There's no better forum than video in general. It really captures us in a way that no one can deny. Sometimes it's simple videos. You can think about the Domino's example where people were doing horrible things. Again, thanks to video for that. You think about the apology, the explanation from the CEO where he refused to look at the camera. And it's just a whole new dimension about how consumers hold companies accountable and how companies choose to fess up or deal with these issues. These are things that were just never even discussed before. They still haven't even made it a big dent into our business school curriculum. We need to catch up with what consumers are already doing.